Looking to grab tickets to the biggest games and concerts in town, from the Minnesota Wild to Santana, the Doobie Brothers, Chris Stapleton, and more? Your chance to win is waiting. Enter now at KFAN.com. Keyword contest.
507 guy writes, people will enjoy complaining about replacement officials. Well, that's what's interesting about this. If indeed the NFL is forced to go with replacement officials because they can't come to a new labor agreement with the current officials, it's going to be, the great irony of it is that I actually don't think people will enjoy complaining about replacement officials. I think whether it's fair or not to the replacement officials, because they're replacement officials, the assumption is going to be made that there'll be more blown calls, or the calls that are blown are only being blown because replacement officials are the ones making them. And oddly, it might give a new appreciation for the regular officials, which very few people have now, right? Because we think, oh, they're terrible. But then you got to go with, well, if these are the best money can buy, then be careful what you wish for, because the ones you're getting are even worse. So in the current climate, yes, it's part of football. Part of sports really is exercising your First Amendment right to rip the refs. There's almost something cathartic about it in a way. But I think if it's replacement refs, it's going to be, especially if they're egregiously bad calls,
right,
where they miss rules. I mean, that's just what one might anticipate. They don't know what city they're in. I don't think people enjoy complaining at all. It'll be like, what the bleep are we doing here? This is an embarrassment. This is a joke. And I think the league knows it deep down. Now, it is interesting, though, the way they're positioning themselves as of these meetings in Arizona, where one of the big shots basically saying, yeah, we want a deal done, but you know what else we want? We want greater accountability. We don't particularly like this blackout period where we don't have a chance to talk with you and go through. We'll give you more money. We're willing to. The owners are willing to do that, but new sheriff in town when it comes to refereeing, we want greater accountability, which of course is music to the ears of every rube who thinks his team always gets jobbed by the officials. But where it actually leads to, I have absolutely no idea. I just think that we're not going to enjoy complaining about replacement refs, because it'll be a feeling of, you have this multi-trillion-dollar industry, and you're ruining it by putting charlatans out there to make the critical calls that are being made that determine the outcome, wins and losses each and every week. And it's football, man. This is too much. There's too much at stake. This is life and death. National Football League.
And as Tom Crean said, too, it's the money, it's the gambling. That's a huge part of it. You've got money on a game and something goes wrong, that's not going to go well. And even if it's 2-3 weeks like it was in 2012,
that's enough.
Every game matters in the end of the season, right? You're grinding out for home field, you're grinding out for division, you're grinding out for playoff seeding, the whole deal.
Every game is a cultural happening in the United States of America. Now, there's some exceptions. Like you say, what, really? Tennessee Titans games, Dan? Really? Are you serious? Yeah, there's obviously a few teams where you go, does it really matter? Although it does in Tennessee. But other places, most places, and teams that, are in the mix. Here? You kidding me? Whether we're good or not, it's everything here.
Yes.
Let's get caught up. Don't forget Gannon on this subject, and I hope a lot more at the bottom of the hour. And we'll prepare for Luigi in studio at 5 o'clock as well.
Never miss your chance to know what the latest sports news is, your chances to win tickets, knowing what's going on with all your favorite KFAN shows. Follow us on social, KFAN1003, Instagram, TikTok, X. Stay connected. Follow the sports leader, KFAN.
There's actually some good baseball discussions to get into. Most of them, sadly, have nothing to do with the Twins. Home opener, we determined, is Friday.
Yes.
Is there an updated tsunami forecast, or was that a lot of scare tactics that it might snow in the air, but it's unlikely that anything is going to become measurable on Thursday? So I'm assuming that's what the Twins are hoping for.
Yeah, right now, sleet accumulation of less than half inch.
That's what they're calling it?
On Thursday.
On Thursday.
You want me to read you Thursday?
Yeah.
Rain possibly mixed with freezing rain and sleet before 7.
Man.
Then rain possibly mixed with freezing rain between 7 and 8. Then rain after 8. So it must be a little bit warmer.
Has a baseball game ever been called on account of freezing rain?
I'm sure.
Like affecting the ability to move around on the actual diamond.
Yeah, probably.
Think so?
Yeah.
It'd be fun to watch in a way.
Like a slip and slide thing?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty much rain.
What do we have to lose at this point?
I know.
That's the one way I'd look at it.
Maybe a little bit of snow on Saturday night when it gets colder.
That's just lovely. It's just lovely. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is open at 64686. Dr. Phil writes, I thought the lesson to be learned from NFL replacement refs was that everyone watching thinks the refs stink, and even the fans could do a better job. As we quickly found out, the next level of refereeing under the usual level was far below what we all thought. You're right. After the failed Mary, the NFL is forced to bring the refs back. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the existing umpires, refs, whatever, they love when replacements have to be used to the extent that it might be a dose of cold reality to the rubes who think that they're doing a terrible job. When you say, well, terrible is relative. And if you're going to go down to the next level, by the way, let's say the NFL ends up stealing a bunch of college refs or college officials. Then what do the colleges do? Hire high school officials?
That's what I wonder.
I mean, where does this end?
Right. That's what I wonder. And would they be allowed to work multiple games on a weekend, or would they have to decide? Would they have to choose?
Come on, NFL, just pay the damn refs. It's an impossible job, so pay them as such. You want the best refs you can get officiating the game. Replacement refs, writes David out of Marshall. No bueno. Yeah, all that's true, but I think the recreational activity of whining about the regular officials just isn't going to work. I don't think it will be anywhere near as cathartic for people, because I think it'll be a definite feeling of, my God, these games mean everything to me. And you got a bunch of I used to, rail on the refs, but these guys are really clownish, or they're not ready. They're not capable. They're just pretending that they're capable, and they're ruining my game experience. Now, I'm not saying we'll ever stop watching. I mean, that's impossible, but I think it would have a very, very large impact. I don't know how far apart the two sides are. I don't know how cheap the owners are being. There's, the old Sid joke was about, full-time refs, right? And then obviously a lot of fans, zebra-hating fans, picked up on it. You're going to full-time. There's full-time refs, they'll be better. Which, by the way, doesn't necessarily mean they'll be better. I don't think. Because I don't even know how many seminars you could put people through. But the advantage, I guess, would be is then those individuals don't have to do other work if they're paid well enough, and then maybe to that extent they can concentrate on it more. But I'm not sure I've bought the theory that if you make them full time, suddenly they're going to be transformed and be better. In fact, I will tell you again, in 2026, because we more closely monitor each and every call exponentially more than we ever did, I don't think the most highly trained referees you could find are still going to come away with us feeling like we're getting the best out of the officials. I think we're just bred. We're now bred for they stink. They blew that call. I just saw it from the fourth angle, and they did not get the damn thing right. Now does that mean you don't try to get the best officials out there? Of course, you definitely do. But I think we're all programmed now for jumping on the call that's blown more than enjoying, good call. I just don't think that's in us anymore because, as I said earlier, even if you start backing away and saying, well, maybe it wasn't that bad call, you get back online and you see another angle and then you go, I wasn't mad enough. That was outrageous. That's ridiculous. Are these called algorithms? I mean, there's an algorithm built in.
Yep.
that I think ensures that even for people who want to try to be a little more sane about officiating, they can't. They're not allowed to in 2026. One other text, and then we'll prepare for Rich Gannon. It's not just the hyper-tribalism of teams that is feeling outrage against officiating and getting calls right. It's absolutely about sports gambling as well. People have money on the line, and that will further inflame the reactions. You heard that from Crean, Tom Crean, when we did talk football with him. The most interesting basketball item from him, I thought, on the tanking was, I'm not going. You cannot pay me, basically is what he said, to go to a game in which one of the teams is sitting 4 starters or load management or pretending to be injured or whatever. I don't. Now, he did say, well, if I'm in a suite,
I'll pay for the parking if I get the suite and the food is free because the kids will think it's cool.
But this comes from this guy who loves basketball, and he's saying, I want nothing to do with this nonsense. He very strongly stated what I think we should all agree on. It's a real problem. It's the biggest problem plaguing this league in, I think, decades. I really do. And I don't know if there's a magic way out of the box with all these solutions. The NBA has announced there were 3 ideas they're considering. Do you understand any of them? Because you almost need like a handbook. You need like a 20-page primer to even understand what at least 2 of the 3, the ramifications of 2 of the 3. I prefer to think you should just come up with something simple, but maybe there is nothing simple that can rectify the situation. I don't know.
Well, because like Crean said, there's smart people running these organizations that can work around the rules.
Like the old-style basketball coaching cheaters.
Yes.
He talked about that.
They'll work around the rules.
They always will find a way around the cheaters will always find a way around the rules.
They're always a step ahead. The criminals are usually one step ahead.
Yeah, and of course, our cheaters, with the exception of that rule, we weren't one step ahead. We were one step behind, so the law ended up catching up with us, right? Pretty much every time we've cheated.
Whether it was turning in the same term paper or writing a contract on a napkin, we had bad ideas. We had decent ideas very poorly executed. That's it.
That's for sure. All right, Rich Gannon. Let's catch up with him. I want to talk quarterback 101 with him. Also want to talk about his former teammate, Joey Browner. We owed him yesterday, but I want to hear from a teammate and who knows what else. Maybe we'll get into this officiating controversy as well. Rich Gannon is coming up now.
KFAN welcomes some great shows to Mystic Lake Amphitheater. Leonard Skinner and Foreigner will be there August 16th. Motley Crue on August 21st. And Santana and the Doobie Brothers on August 27th. Get the complete details on all the upcoming shows at the concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Does this tease suck you in? This is via The Athletic. Andrea Pavin's, is pronounced Pavin, P-A-V-A-N's life changed forever in February after a freak accident in South Africa. The Italian golfer told us about his recovery since he fell down an elevator shaft.
Ow.
That gets my attention.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get more details on that a little bit later. The old falling down an elevator shaft, never advised, I don't think. And how do you fall down an elevator shaft? Is it the outer door opens and you don't look to actually see a car there?
I think that's it. It has to be.
That can't be good. I think you better call Gannon. I mentioned for him to call the hotline, and now he says I'm good now, so he might be. Apparently, he's waiting for a call from us. Rich Gannon is going to join us here in just a minute. If you have questions for him, the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is available to you at 64686. The huge news of the day is Lou Nanny is back in studio. He will join at the top of the 5 o'clock hour today as well. So if you have questions for Louie and want to get in ahead of it, you can do that as well via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, which continues to be 64686 as well. We've already got a lot of good texts coming in for Gannon on a number of significant topics. And we might even, as I said, talk a little bit about the possibility of a lockout of the NBA officials, referees, and, what he's hearing about how dire it might be. Whether there's a lot of rhetoric indicating they're not close, which sometimes is true. Sometimes that just ends up being part of the process as well. So we'll probably get into that subject as well. We got Gannon? Yeah, we do. He's joining us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Welcome back to the Fan, sir. I failed to give Gaardsy the message you had asked for, which was you believe in the heads up about 30 minutes before game time. Is that correct?
Yeah, and also the but that's just me.
Yeah, how much? What do you know? That's the question. Do you know a lot? Do you know a little? I hope a lot.
It's good to be with you, brother.
It's good to chat with you, too. The signal's a little funky right now. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better because we've not had a chance to talk on air since, a series of pretty significant moves by the Vikings at your favorite position, the quarterback position. So give me the Rich Gannon special for analysis and I guess maybe even opinion on the decision to, clearly make this about more than J.J. McCarthy at this point, to bring in an established starter in the league, even if he's one that his last team basically wanted to go away, Kyler Murray. Good move for the Purple, or are you skeptical?
So a couple of things. One, if you're J.J. McCarthy, you can't at all be offended. Anyone who would sit him down and say, hey, let's look at your body of work. We had to do something. And I think every team, I don't care if you have, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, you're always looking to create competition at the quarterback position. Now, if you have a second-year player that's coming off of a very subpar season, you'd be foolish not to bring in somebody. Now, the question is who's out there, right? So you get a quarterback that has starting experience. He's got 87 starts under his belt, albeit, he hasn't played great ball. He's 38, 48, and 1 as a starter. He's missed a lot of games. He's a smaller player. He's 5'10", a little over 200 pounds. So with that comes some challenges. But this guy is a dynamic playmaker. And the problem that he's not necessarily played with great teams. I think you go back to Steve Keim and Michael Bidwell putting that clause in the contract, the study clause, which obviously got everyone's attention. You don't want a study clause in an NFL quarterback's contract. If he's not the hardest working and smartest guy in your building, you're usually going to run into problems. But let me say this about him. I think the thing that he does really well is he can create and manufacture offense on his own. He is a tremendous athlete. He's got rare and unusual quickness for the position. He's a hard guy to get your hands on if you're rushing the passer. And, he's going to scramble around and make big plays. The problem is he's 5'10", and he struggles functioning as a pocket passer. Doesn't like to be under center. That compromises what you can do in the running game, play action game. So you're going to tweak the offense to what he does. Now, I think if you're the Vikings, that you get him for cheap, and the Cardinals are still on the hook for a boatload of money, and basically you have a competition. And my sense is both will play in 2026.
Good summation, a very good analysis, and you kind of got to where I was leading on the basis of where you say he excels. I don't know if that's what the head coach here wants. The head coach has some pretty, I think, determined ideas of what the kind of offense he wants to run and the kind of quarterback he wants to run it. Is he capable? Because, like you say, if you're going to bring him in, you got to give yourself a chance to succeed with him, which would seem to indicate you're going to have to make some changes. But I think these are pretty dramatic changes from what, philosophically speaking, the quarterback whisperer tends to want from the position. What do you think?
I think both sides are going to have to compromise. I think that, Kevin O'Connell's going to have to put in a package of plays and some concepts that the quarterback has some history and familiarity with. That makes total sense. I think the quarterback, if I were advising Kyler Murray, I'd say to him, get into the Twin Cities as quickly as possible. Buy yourself a condominium or an apartment. Get an apartment and be at the facility every day. You have to earn the trust and respect of the players, of the coaches, the entire organization. You know, you come with some baggage, and you got to show people that you're all business. I think that's the first thing. I think the other part of it is that, you know, I think you got to coach this kid hard. Like, I think you look at what happened last year with Caleb Williams. I think you look what happened with Trevor Lawrence. They both of those quarterbacks were with, you know, obviously a coaching change. And both coaches, Liam Cohen and Ben Johnson, really put the screws to those guys. And I think that's what this guy needs. This guy, everybody has a different sized backyard to run around in. This guy doesn't need a big one. He needs a really small one. I think he needs some structure and discipline in his game. I think you got to coach him hard. I think you got to teach him the system. And you got to ask him to function and play within the system. Now, he's going to, you know, obviously he's going to, you know, the unscripted offense is going to naturally come about, but I want this guy to get the ball out on time and in rhythm. And the other thing, Dan, I would say is if you study his career over 7 years, here's the one thing that really jumps out to me. The communication breakdowns offensively when he's been under center. There's the receivers are running a route, he's throwing a go route, the receivers are running an out route, or vice versa. There's been delayed game penalties, there's unnecessary timeouts, there's communication between the play caller and the quarterback. And it's just he doesn't show you that he has complete and total command of the offense. And that, to me, is a major red flag and would be cause for concern. That being said, I think Kevin O'Connell, you know, he's not asleep at the wheel. He knows what he's getting. And you got to figure out a way. You got to find out if this kid really loves football, and you got to coach the heck out of him and see if he's willing to make adjustments.
Here's my concern regarding what you just said. You mentioned Caleb Williams as an example. Caleb Williams still was just coming in the league. This guy's been in the league 7 years, and as you said, and to me, based on everything that I've been taught about the quarterback position and that you've taught me at the quarterback position, is at the NFL level, you have to be capable of playing under center. You just have to. And I guess I question whether, if the light bulb's going to go off in his head, if he was like 2 years in, I might get it, but we're still saying, well, he's not really comfortable doing that. He hasn't been asked to do that very much. And I'm going, well, then maybe that's what he is. And I think that's an awful big concession to make.
Well, I would agree with you. I think if you're Kevin O'Connell, you know, this isn't a conversation that you had post-signing. This is probably pre-signing. Say, hey, listen, you know, here's what we're going to do, and here's what we're going to ask you to do, and is this something you'd be comfortable doing? I think this is what the spring and summer is for. And, you know, a chance to work from under center a little bit more, chance to get better with the run game footwork, a chance to own it, a chance to be in total command and not waste plays and get us into the best play possible based on the front and coverage. You know, I think the best quarterbacks in today's game have that freedom and flexibility at the line of scrimmage. I mean, he has to show that he's capable of being able to process and absorb a lot of information quickly and efficiently, and to be able to play that way from center or in the gun, however, you know, whatever the play calls. But the other thing I would say with this guy, Dan, is that if I'm Kevin O'Connell, I sit him down and I say, hey, look, bro, you've been in the league 7 years. They just ran you out of Arizona. They wanted nothing to do with you. The prior coaching staff didn't want anything to do with you. You're 38, 48-1 as a starting quarterback, and yet you completed 67% of your passes. You're throwing twice as many touchdowns as interceptions. What's going on here? And Kyler Murray has to make the determination. How do you want the second half of your career to go?
Yeah.
Do you want to be one and done in Minnesota and somewhere else, and then eventually a backup and eventually out of the league, or do you want the second half of your career to be on a different, different
arc?
Mark. Yeah. A different trajectory is what the word I'm looking for. So that's the conversation. Like, hey, it's still right there in front of you, and you have a chance to kind of to rewrite the script, but you got to put the work in. Like, that's the knock on this guy. And I'm just being honest with you. Like, the knock on him is like, you know, it's not the most important thing to him. And if I'm coaching that position, like, that guy's got to be the hardest working, the most, you know, smartest guy, understands our system better than anybody else, and physically and mentally one of the toughest players in the football team. That's what you have to get out of Kyler Murray.
Yeah, that's very well said. It's what concerns me. But what you're telling me is You got to have a big boy conversation as a coach with a player. Like you said, you can't just be collaborative and all the things that we talk about these guys want to be now and friends and so that you have to be honest to give the QB himself, not to mention the team, the best chance to succeed with this marriage.
Yeah, I was blessed. I had a good dad. And when I was younger and I was growing up and my dad said to me, my job as your dad is not to be your best friend. My job as your dad is to be the parent, is to help guide you and discipline you and give you some guidelines and boundaries and help you grow and develop. We became better friends and best buddies as I got older. I have a beer with the guy.
Sure.
Well, when I was younger, there's discipline and structure.
Yep.
It's the same thing when you coach the quarterback position or any position in the NFL. Like, I'm going to coach you hard and love you later. The other part of it is that, I think transparency is really important. Good players want to be coached. Good players want feedback. Like, that's what they want. Like Peyton Manning, he didn't want you to tell him that, hey, it's a good throw. He knew that. Hey, the footwork wasn't right, or hey, you missed an opportunity here. That's the kind of feedback that you want to have at that position. And if I'm coaching this guy, I'm telling you, I'm going to be on him. I'll be all over him in the spring. I'm going to coach him hard, and we're going to find out what he's got in him. We're going to find out how much he wants it. And the same thing with J.J. McCarthy. Like, I think the competition's good for everybody. And if I'm, here's the thing I do know. And Kevin O'Connell's a smart guy. If you don't have production and consistency at that position, you're better off selling life insurance. Coaching in the NFL is not a good job. It's bad. Yeah. Because if you don't have the quarterback, you're going to get fired. Like, they've got one in Detroit, they've got a good young one in Green Bay, and they've got a good developing player in Chicago. If you look at the division, you say, well, let's be honest, like, where we stack in terms of the quarterback position, we're in fourth place out of 4 teams. We got a lot of work to do, and Kevin realizes that. And between J.J. McCarthy and Kyler Murray, we got to find some answers.
Are you still in the camp that believes, despite some really, bad production, especially early last season before he got hurt, that McCarthy is very much redeemable, that it would be foolish to dismiss him as a possibility? Because, I think a lot of us assumed that the Vikings brought Kyler Murray in to start, no matter how they're proclaiming it. Where do you fit J.J. McCarthy into this mix?
I think it's really sad and disappointing that after 10 starts in the NFL, we've already come to some conclusions. Like, at least I haven't, but I think a lot of Viking fans are, hey, the guy can't play. Meanwhile, a year ago, they were running out to buy his jersey. So, I think there were some unrealistic expectations. Like, this quarterback whisperer. Like, I don't even know how Kevin got that name, but if that's what they want to give him, that's fine.
Yes.
I think he's a phenomenal football coach. But, just because Sam Darnold came in and played well and then went on to win a Super Bowl, it's not like every guy he touches is going to be like, the next Johnny Unitas or Joe Montana. There's a learning curve. And I just think that J.J. wasn't ready to play. He struggled. I think his completion percentage is simply unacceptable. More interceptions than touchdowns is a bad combination for an NFL quarterback. I think the game was going way too fast for him, Dan. Way too fast. I always say it's like a 16-year-old driver. When you're 16 years old and you're behind a steering wheel of a car, there's a lot happening. All you're trying to do is make the car stop at the red light. You're not seeing pedestrians in the crosswalk. You're not seeing oncoming traffic. You're not seeing what's going on in your rearview mirror. You don't process that, because it's going too fast until you become an experienced driver. He's not an experienced quarterback just yet, and so it's going way too fast for him. So if I'm coaching this guy up, I tell him every play matters. So you cannot go out and play poorly for 3 quarters and then rally the team in the fourth quarter against the Bears and think it's okay. Like, we can't survive that way. And the other thing is he has to learn how to protect himself. Too many unnecessary hits, too many missed games. A guy that's trying to be a tough guy and show people that he can take hits. Like, that's not the job of an NFL quarterback. Your best ability is your availability. His job is to play all 17 games. So, I love JJ. I think there's plenty of upside there. If I were advising him, I'd say you have to outwork the competition. You need to be in town. You need to be at the facility every single day. Every rep you can get matters. You've got to make sure that when it's all said and done, when we get to August, everybody in the locker room, everybody on the team, every coach knows that you're the better answer at quarterback. This is going to be great. It's going to be fun to watch this competition through the spring and then through training camp.
As a guy who had to work his way up to become what you ultimately became, MVP level, were you bothered at all by some of the things that McCarthy said? This isn't about performance, because in the end it's more about performance. But the stuff like him talking about himself as on game day he becomes this, he's 9. That's his nickname for himself. I mean, I'm thinking of veteran QBs like you would kind of like roll your eyes and say, man, just play for a while, have some success. There'll be time to get to all that other nonsense, but that it's too soon. And it feels kind of, I don't know, for me it felt a little performative on the front end before he'd actually done anything.
I would say less is more. And if I were advising JJ, and I'll see him this summer, we play golf a little bit, he's a member over at Hazeltine, so I just simply say to him, like, dude, just stay in your lane, you know what I mean? And less is more, and let's just worry about putting good, I said to him, the whole thing about playing that position is about consistency and production week in and week out, right? So, you got to go out, if you pick up the paper on a Monday morning when Brady was playing, you go, oh my gosh, Tom Brady threw 3 picks yesterday and the Patriots lost. Very, very, very rarely would you see a front page like that, right? Because he didn't do that. Same thing with Peyton Manning. Like I'm not trying to compare him to those players. All I'm simply saying is that position is all about consistency and production. That being said, we can't have a good week and a bad week. I would even go a step further. We can't have a good practice and a bad practice with him. And I would also go a step further and say, let's go, at the beginning I was saying, well, let's just try and put a good series together. And then we got a good series. Let's come back and have another good series. I would even go back and say, let's just put a play together. And then if we make a good footwork, let's come back to that. That's how simple we have to break it down, because he's learning. And I think sometimes we get so far ahead of ourselves. He had a great comeback and he was the player of the week, whatever it is. Dude, let's forget all about that. Let's just complete some balls in practice. He's a guy that has to be coached hard. He's a young player that's, and immature. And I don't mean that in a personal way. I just think he's immature from a standpoint he hasn't played. Every time out is a new learning experience for a young player like that. So, I think he's got plenty of upside. I think he's a talented young player that's got a lot to learn. But unfortunately for him, today's NFL is a lot different than when I came in, Dan, right? Because I came in and there was Tommy Kramer and Wade Wilson, and I had a chance to watch and listen and learn and not really, play much, and then eventually get a chance to play and then not play well and then finally learn and then get kicked to the curb, And everybody has a different learning curve, but I still think this kid is a talented player and has plenty of upside.
Before the Vikings made the move on Kyler Murray, I continued, I think as a lone wolf, to beat the Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota drum. Was I being an idiot? And if the answer is yes, you can say, yeah, you were being an idiot. What do you think?
I don't think it's a good fit, especially not at this. I mean, I think that I think Aaron's got a relationship with Mike McCarthy. I think he had a good experience in Pittsburgh last year. Yeah. I think the division's going through some major adjustments with a couple of new head coaches, and so I think if I'm advising Aaron Rodgers, I say, hey, you want to play again and make some good money and have a chance to maybe finish your career with a real bang, go back to Pittsburgh. And I just think that makes more sense. And I think when you bring in Aaron Rodgers, it really changes the dynamics of everything you do. I mean, it's not just JJ's development. It sends a message to the organization, the fan base, like, hey, we get bringing this quarterback. He's 40-some years old, and we think we can win a world championship. I don't know that that's quite the message right now with Aaron, because you could bring him in, you could spend the money, you could have sell a boatload of jerseys and play preseason tickets, and the guy gets hurt week 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think there's always cause for concern when you're dealing with the quarterbacks north of 40.
Let's finish with your perspective. And then these are both very sad stories, but you can speak to them with some authority because of your time spent with them. The story breaking over the weekend that former Vikings safety Joey Browner had passed away. He's been dealing with illness and health issues, I think, for quite some time. For the younger football fans that are listening right now, who've heard the name, I'm sure, but haven't watched much of him because it's been a while ago, what do they need to know about Joey Browner?
I would say that Joey Browner was a transformational player at the safety position. Rare and unusual size for the position, 6'3", 225, 230 pounds. Could play in the box, could play at all three levels of the defense, had really good quickness and speed and suddenness. Was a phenomenal tackler. As you know, Dan was a black belt, tough guy. Would do anything he asked. He ran down and covered, on punt team. He was a gunner. I mean, just a rare talent, and just a guy that I think really changed, not only our defense, but how other offenses approached our defense. He could blitz, he could play in the flat, he could play at all three levels, as I said, and just a great teammate and a really genuine person. I just remember coming as a young player and being around him. He's always smiling, he was always gracious, he was always kind, he was always helpful to young players. I would say he was a quiet leader on the football team. He led by example by the way he played the game. But I just they don't make him like Joey. No. Joey was a real badass.
Yeah. Well, you've hit on the key to me. I talk about a position that used to exist in college football a long time ago called monster back, which I wish was used more. You may be familiar with it. And it to me it's a guy who may be in his case a safety, but's got some linebacker in him. And still can be ball hawking as well. That was, to me, what stood out in his case was as an all-pro player. I think he was first-team all-pro 3 times, second-team once. Was he could make he could be a good ball hawk. He could get turnovers. He could cause turnovers. But he could also bring people down almost like he was a linebacker.
With the 6 straight Pro Bowls back when Pro Bowls meant something. Yeah. And, Floyd Peters, I think, the way he utilized him. And also Pete Carroll was the secondary coach at the time. And I think between Pete and Monty Kiffin and Floyd Peters, I mean, they did everything they could to get him involved in every game plan. But I would say he was a very disruptive player. He was a very physical tackler. I remember one time we were playing the Denver Broncos. I think it was on a Monday night or Sunday night, and Gerald Wilhite broke the line of scrimmage. He was off to the races, a really quick back, and he was going to score a touchdown. Joey pulled him down from behind and snapped his tibia.
That's right.
I mean, it was, Joey was, I'm telling you, that once he got his hands on you, it was over.
No question. The other sad piece of news involves the former Raiders center, Garrett Robbins, passing away at the age of 52 years old, who you played with, was supposed to be your center in the Super Bowl that year. What can you tell us about your memories there of him, what his legacy was, and even what you remember from that? I would assume you think very strange weekend leading into that Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, Barrett was a great player, and when I first got to the Raiders in '99, he was kind of a developing player at that position, the center position, and he eventually became an All-Pro, and he's a Pro Bowler in 2002, the year he went to the Super Bowl. So big, strong, physical, could get up on the second level, was a mauler in the running game, smart player with the TCU, was a second-round pick of the Raiders, great guy in the locker room, great guy to be around. Unfortunately, he had some demons and he had some health issues, and he was on and off the medication. Yeah. And he had some challenges, and it's unfortunate because he had a career that he could have played another 4 or 5 years, and it ended too soon. Of course, he got in trouble with the law, but sorely missed by Raider fans. I know his wife, his 2 daughters are really just so sad that it had to end the way it did. But I always have great memories of Barrett. He was a great teammate, a great guy to have in auto.
When you look back on that, the disappearance the night before the bowl and so forth, I mean, how disruptive was that? I mean, that can't be something any team is ready for. I'm not trying to put the game itself on him, but that's got to be pretty challenging, or had to have been pretty challenging at that moment.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, he was a Pro Bowl player. We got to go up against Warren Sapp, and Simeon Rice, and Derek Brooks, and that was a really good Buccaneers defense. But it certainly hurt us in terms of what we did with our calls and communication. It hurt us what we did in terms of our ability to run the football, or I should say our inability to run the ball. And so, I mean, it had a lot, but look, there's plenty of reasons why we lost, and I can certainly raise my hands and accept responsibility for my part in it. But yeah, I mean, it was shocking. I mean, we went over to the stadium on Saturday for the team picture and for a walkthrough. He wasn't there. And Saturday morning, everybody said, "Well, where's Barrett?" And then Saturday night, I'm in a quarterback meeting room with Jim Harbaugh and Mark Trestman, and Bill Callahan, head coach, walks in and said they just found him in Mexico and he's incoherent and he's not going to play. We're like shocked.
Yeah,
it's the first we heard of it. And, I think it was, it was an unsettling thing for all of us. But look, there's plenty of reasons why we lost. That certainly didn't help, but I would never, ever place blame on Barrett. I think he was struggling, doing the best he could. He was dealing with some demons, and it all caught up to him Super Bowl weekend.
Last item, because you pay very close attention still to the Raiders. Are you a Fernando Mendoza guy? And remember, he attended my alma mater, Indiana University.
So I've had the good fortune of meeting him and visiting with him, and I just think he is a wonderful young man, and I'm very optimistic that the Raiders are going to get this thing done, and he's going to be a Raider when it's all said and done. As you know, he's a good-looking quarterback. He's got the height and the length and the size. I think he's got good arm talent. I mean, that's only going to get better. He's a really smart player. He's already studying the Raiders offense. He's working with Brian Gaardsy. I think, Dan, I always say this, when I evaluate that position, physical and mental toughness is really important to me. I think he checks the box there.
Yep.
I think he's got natural leadership skills. Now, people say, well, how's he going to do? Well, it's not just whether the young quarterback is ready to play. Is the team ready for the young quarterback? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a good offensive line. Can you run the ball? We got good help. We got good receivers. We got a good defense that can create some negative plays and some short fields. And are we good in the kicking game? Do we have, all those things matter. And I think, in the years past when the Raiders tried to develop a young quarterback, their house wasn't in order. I'm hopeful that Clint Kubiak and the staff is going to continue to invest in free agency. The draft is going to be very, very important for the Raiders. They've had some awful, awful drafts here the last decade. They've got to get this one right.
You were exemplary today, my friend. I appreciate the time.
You're the best, brother.
Very much. We'll talk
I'm a little
soon.
disappointed it's taking you so long to reach out to me, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we can be careful what you wish for, is all I'm going to say on that.
You're the best.
Thanks, man.
You're
Be good. Rich Gannon helping us out, as only he can indeed do. Guess what? I hope you're sitting down for this. If you're driving, slow down a little bit. We don't want any fender benders. Lou Nanne is going to join the show next. Now, that's not news because he's on with us almost every Tuesday. The news is he's going to be in the studio. In fact, he already is. Luigi, top of the hour, back in just a minute.